just waiting for everyone to kind of log in. Let me pull up my screen share so you guys can see the screen. So everyone, thank you for coming in today. Today's topic is how Agentic AI is transforming marketing. I'm really excited to have some esteemed speakers here, Anirudh, Venki, and Gary, and we'll get into their introductions in a little bit as well. I'm going to quickly, before we get started, we have a quick poll we wanted to ask the audience to get a sense of your familiarity with the concept of agentic AI, if you can fill this out really quickly. And then the second question is, which area of marketing do you hope AI can improve the most? Is it lead generation, customer engagement, content creation, personalization at scale, data analysis and insights, and workflow automation? So once you have completed this, let me kind of jump into a little bit about who I am. I'm Hamlet Azarian. I'm the CEO of Azarian Growth Agency. I've been a lifetime longer learner, and a little bit about us and who we are. We have what you're attending today is our A Growth Lab webinar series, where we host different webinar topics, typically on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. This is an exciting one for us. This is a little bit different than we normally do for those who've typically attended our webinars. This is a fireside chat where we brought in some esteemed experts in their own right to talk about this topic of today. The next is our A Growth Academy, where we have our digital learning courses. We've had over 3,500 students now that have taken it. You can find it easily online at Udemy if you're interested in learning more about our courses. We have our podcast series where we interview different founders and CEOs and VCs talking about typically around growth mindset and the challenges that founders go through and being able to build a startup that can scale and get exit velocity. So this is a really great podcast if you're learning for practical experience. And then, of course, we have our agency where we partner with different brands as well as different startups helping scale up their go-to-market strategies. For some of the different topics we've done in our Growth Lab webinar series that we think you might find interesting here are content marketing in the AI era. Here we talk about how AI can be used, particularly to build brand profiles and the initial foundations that are really needed to really write really great long-form content articles. This is how generative AI is shaping the way we work and create. This is where I taught my son at the time when he was 7 years old, what the LLM models are, and I simplified it using the Finding Nemo movie as an analogy on how the different LLM models work. So this is something interesting for the parents out there who want to be able to introduce AI to their kids. And this one is really great as well, where we get into SEO evolution, where we talk about really AI overviews and we break down the different patents around what Google has released and how the actual algorithm for AI overviews works as well. But enough about me. I know you're here to hear about our guests. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes and allow them each to introduce themselves. We'll go from left to right. So Anirudh will go first, then Gary, Haymann, and as well as Venki following. Anirudh, please take the mic.
Yeah. Awesome. Listen, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Love the branding, by the way, at Azarian Agency. So that's cool. A little bit about me. One of the co-founders at Lyzr. We have an AI agentic platform that helps you automate workflows. And we have we're a full stack agent framework. I guess another way to think about it is everything is kind of built end to end by ourselves on our platform. And I think for the non-technical folks out there, we're more like Shopify as a platform to help you build websites in the non-technical world.
Perfect. Thank you, Anirudh. Gary?
Awesome. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here today. We've been in the AI space for about a decade. Our first stint was an agency model in the AI SEO space. We were building a lot of AI technology in order to keep up with our large clients, like kind of Toyota, Lexus, Fortune 100 companies. That business was very successful. We spun out the technology, and that's what's turned into SmythOS today. And it's a true operating system where we really are just trying to make it easier for businesses and enterprises to utilize and create agents with AI, agnostic to any data set, any language model you want to use, and any, the finished product is always an API that you can plug into any system. So just really trying to remove some of the complexity and making it easier. Obviously, AI is such a hot topic. How can we make those stepping stones easier for businesses to use and adopt and test it out? So thanks for letting me join you here today.
Thanks for joining us, Gary. And Venki?
Hey, thank you, Hamlet. Hey, everyone. Myself, Venki. I am the founder and CTO of OneShot.ai. Prior to this, I worked at Salesforce for more than a decade. What we do is we have bespoke AI agents capable of basically booking the prospect meetings, especially within the B2B sales prospecting. We recently launched an orchestration platform, basically combining AI agents, also bringing the humans on demand to do any last mile effort alongside with the AI agents. Also, you can think of as like a Upwork, bring agents and humans together to drive the prospect meetings, mainly in the prospecting space.
Thank you, Venki. Well, I'm glad to have all three of you here. Let me stop sharing so we can all see each other in a normal format. We're going to keep this for everyone listening in. At any time that any questions that come into your mind, please feel free to add it to the chat. We will save some time definitely towards the tail end of this to go over the audience questions as well. And it's meant to be very conversational. So let's kind of get started with Anirudh. Anirudh, you've founded multiple growth-focused startups. How has your approach to scaling changed since you started integrating Agentic AI?
Great question. So I think on both sides, I think on the hiring end, now it's almost an expectation that people should have that skill set. It's almost as part of a JD saying, like, if you're hiring someone on the sales side, it should be like, well, have you played around with them, one of the AI SDR tools? Have you tried to automate a workflow, right? So, and obviously on the marketing, that's been huge. Like, you should be using ChatGPT. I think that's a non-negotiable. But I think for ourselves, I think we've gotten very AI first. I think our approach is, how do we make sure before we hire, can we use agents to maybe automate at least a big chunk of that specific use case? And I mean, I think there's a lot of hype around it. I think it's also important to set expectations that there is still a lot of human in loop that kicks in. But I think we're at least being AI first in a lot of our approach. So like a good example is like, we're a team of almost 50 people. We have one HR person, and we've decided not to hire another HR person. So we have a pre-built agent for resume filtering. So anything that comes from LinkedIn or a Monster comes directly on, like we upload all the resumes from Keka, which is another like an HR platform, onto this. We set the criteria, and then it automatically from there gets filtered. It's connected to our HR's Calendly. And then from there, she can say, okay, I want to approve all these people, and then like set meetings. So I think there's, at least on the HR side, that's become very clear. Marketing, we have like some small use cases that we're using internally as well. But we can get into that. But yes, I think that's the hope. Before we actually hire someone, we use AI to validate whether it can be done.
Thank you. Any Gary as well as Venki, do you have any thoughts on how you guys are building your teams in the world of Agentic AI and AI as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to kind of piggyback on what was shared. I mean, I think that we're now in a time that you can automate processes, but it's really about not removing people from the equation, but giving them superpowers where they can be so much more productive and scale what they're doing, and really focus on their unique ability. In every department, you have these people that are so creative and exceptional at a certain aspect of their job, but so much time is consumed by mundane, repetitive process. Well, if you can automate that with agents and let them spend 80% of their time on where their unique ability is, you can just get such a better output from that standpoint. So it's really not about replacing people. It's about giving them the ability to focus on where they can contribute the best and bring the best value to the customers and the best experience, from that standpoint.
I love that. It's giving them the superpowers, right? Opening up some time for them to think more creatively. I love hearing that. How about yourself, Venki?
Yeah, I would say like almost every role. I mean, if you take historically, any department, job function, sales, marketing, CS, each role has a fixed defined responsibilities, right? Now AI is actually challenging. It's actually redefining what can be done with the human, what can be done with an AI. I think when it comes to hiring process, we got to are we going to hire some humans to do very robotic work, very repetitive work? So that's where the offload stuff that a human don't like to do it, better hand off to the AI agents. And then do not completely outsource to the AI agents. Like you still need to add that human layer, what is not good. Just to give an example, like especially for outbound, we have seen like finding the accounts, finding the prospects and generating emails, outreaching them. All these things can be done at the precision target, but then there is a human element, like you can make a cold call and then try to build the relation and do the real objection handling. So I would say balancing it out, what responsibility to offload to the AI and then what to do with the human. And now every human can do a PhD level work, right? Using all the agents out there.
Perfect. Venki, I want to double click a little bit on that. You started talking about the sales process, and can you give us a little bit more specificity on how you guys are helping for B2B outreach, or dig into that a little bit more for us?
Yeah, sure. So we start with this entire outbound prospecting. I mean, in now nutshell, that you need to speak to book meetings with your potential prospects out there. Back then, it's like what you go to navigators, sales navigator, Zoom info, put some filters, find people, put the name in email sequence, and create a manual task to do the research. It used to be that like an SDRs, bunch of SDRs that does that daily. What has changed now is name of the game has completely changed. It's, I would say, you call it as a precision outreach. By that I mean to say, using agents, you can really almost do right account and right contact with the right message to the right channel at the right time. If you do it all these five things correct, whether it's account, contact, message, channel, and the time, whether it's your marketing efforts, whether it's outreach, outbound efforts, it really starts playing it out to the conversions. So what we have done is we have done that all these aspects into the precision way. So think of like you have a bunch of agents constantly looking into your target ICP accounts. They're just scanning through all these accounts and 24/7, looking for new signals out there. Hey, look, this company actually launched this new product, which can be benefit from your product, your services. So you can, why don't you deploy the agents, which actually does this repetitive? Earlier back then, you deploy the humans. Hey, you're gonna go through the Google search and then go to the website, and it's a very mundane. If you try to do for 2 hours, 3 hours, you don't feel like you do it. The quality drops. So I would say do that agents on all those lens, what you can get to the precision, and then use those lists, use the signals, and can you try to call them and basically convert it out.
I love that. So Venki, you're describing what we call, at least internally or in one of our things, signal-based outreach for helping superpower B2B outreach strategies. And I love that. Anirudh, are there any other, oh, Gary, you have something to add on to that? I would love to hear that.
Yeah, I want to do an Anirudh, definitely want to hear from you in a moment. But what I was just going to do is take it to the next step in that sales process. Once you've done that targeted outreach and you've got somebody interested, what we're doing with a lot of Salesforce is creating kind of sales agents. So many of our calls now, like here today, we're on a video call. So we have, obviously, you can transcribe that sales call. That transcription of the sales call through the sales agent can go into summarizing that, drafting up a follow-up email, giving it to the salesperson. They can then customize it, send it out. All that's tracked in your CRM. You're also, through that transcript, you can analyze the signals in the call through like Sandler selling or a sales methodology that you like that will grade the sales call. You can then determine where it fits in your pipeline based on the signals that were in that sales call, put it straight into, I'll call it like your HubSpot pipeline report, track all of that in your CRM, and just so many people on the sales side of things, they want to sell. They don't want to like organize, take notes, follow up, all the mundane kind of account management things that some of the best salespeople are actually the worst at. And it kind of goes back to what I was sharing earlier, letting people focus on what they love and what they're the best at. And so by automating a lot of that sales process, they can just spend so much more time with their developing relationships, focusing on the key value propositions, and then managing and closing that pipeline from that standpoint. We've seen that very valuable implementations in a lot of different sales organizations.
I love that. Yeah, it's a similar thing that we've done in our own sales process. And I think there's another element of it that is really powerful is not only the follow-up email, not only the summation, not only the coaching, but even getting the proposal ready based off of the conversations that have come up is it, before it was like, okay, well, now I got to go write the proposal. They're actually interested. Now it's like the proposal is ready. Here's draft one. Does this make sense of everything that you discussed, and did it cover everything on the topic? And I feel this speed at we are moving at now is only even the beginning, and it only is going to improve over time. Anirudh, I would love to hear what you guys have been doing on the sales side as well too.
Yeah. No, fair point. It's funny actually. Yesterday, somebody reached out. It's like, Ani, how are you doing getting a lot of these things done quickly? And it's just maybe like a 3-month difference between someone using AI effectively and not. Uh, but I think to your point, I mean, great points, Gary and Venki. I think they hit the nail on the head in terms of how agents are being used on the sales side. I'll talk maybe more on the atomic or the agentic level, which is you can have a combination of agents to automate any workflow today, right? For sales, maybe like, oh, I have a research agent that does research, one composes an email, maybe one does sequencing, and let's say the other one does like scheduling and handling of the calls, right? Now, at the agent level, I think the people need to realize like the agent is smart enough. If you decide, okay, these are the tools you need to access, these are the data source you need to go out and get information about the specific prospect, the agent is smart enough to customize and send out like a really like super hyper personalized email. But it still comes down to like I think there is the sense that agents will give you 3x a better performance than a human. It still comes down to like the human's input or the prompt for each of those flows. So I just want to also make sure that people don't have this expectation that just because I got an AI SDR, it's going to give me more open rates, more click-through rates. You still have to use the agent and tell the agent how to like do the right things in some sense. So there's a lot of churn that's happening in the space, and it's not because of the tool as well as going to get it.
Okay. Gary, I want to kind of shift the conversation a little bit into some of the things that you guys are doing, particularly related to large enterprise brands. What are the most significant shifts you're seeing as they transition from traditional tools to AI-powered systems?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a few aspects of that. I think that what you're seeing is enterprise is trying to catch up with just the rapid adoption of AI with like ChatGPT that everybody in the world and their grandparents are using it kind of overnight. And so what you've seen is all companies now are big corporations are developing an AI council, an AI department, and trying to understand the right implications of how they look at it from that standpoint. Now, because a lot of this for some groups is so new, those are some of the barriers that I kind of put in place where there's a lot of consternation about actually making progress. There's the analysis that turns into paralysis from that standpoint. And I think it's some larger groups because they've thrown people on boards and into councils, now taking a quick, fast decision now turns into this lengthy thing because there's concern around what negative outcomes could happen, and they've got to like mitigate all the risk. And I think what's so critical and important in and with the options that we have with AI at this point is you can build and test and learn in such a quicker, faster, more economical fashion. And it really we've all, the innovation cycle of build, test, learn, and innovate as quick as you can. It's never been more true with AI. So I think it's just balancing, larger companies wanting to make sure that there's protection, governance, and kind of the right guardrails with not losing that experimental fashion of testing and learning and not trying to boil the ocean. I mean, also what we see, I'm actually at a digital marketing conference now, and these large companies like AI and AI solutions, there's a million different ways to interpret that of what it means to different people. So just breaking it down, I think, into small bite-sized pieces, not trying to boil the ocean and trying to figure out simple ways to test and learn, and then just kind of grow from there. I mean, where we've seen the best traction with different groups is they take small projects, they build, they test, their success, they build on that, and it goes from one thing to the next, which you see with a lot of different technologies.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for summarizing that. So the councils and as well as not trying to do too much too fast, really taking strategic steps and kind of getting adoption. Is that a good summation of kind of some of the things that you're noticing overall?
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing a lot of these councils that you have to go through, but hopefully you can find some business leaders that are willing to build and test in a smaller environment so you can actually make progress. Because what we're seeing with these councils is it's dragging simple decisions out and making them a lot more lengthy from that standpoint. And then there's some corporations that are kind of nervous with the power because they don't necessarily understand it. So trying to demystify that and let them see that there's safety and security built into various steps of the process.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that. Anirudh, I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit now about global expansion, given your overall experience. Are you seeing different markets adopting AI at a different pace, or much more open and willing to try enablement, or what are you noticing overall?
Yeah. I mean, US is definitely where all the action is. I would also say US is definitely AI and tech first, as in, I think I can tell you with emerging markets, it's always been the case. Can we throw people at the problem versus tech at the problem? But what we're seeing is, I think the use cases wise, like sales and marketing is huge, and then there's business process automation, and then maybe followed by HR, or maybe followed by customer support, and then HR. What you're seeing across the board is just variations of that. So let's say AI SDR is hot in the US. What you're seeing, we spoke to a client in Europe, and one of the things they do is they're like, okay, I want to be able to send lots of emails at scale. Like I want to do outbound, but I want it in multiple languages. So there's multiple languages for Europe. There's multiple languages for, let's say, South Asia. So I see one variation of that. Language is a variation. The tools they connect to maybe is a variation. What they end up using as sources for research is a variation. But I think use cases wise, I think it's pretty agnostic of which location it is.
Perfect. Venki, in regards to roadblocks and technical roadblocks, have you noticed anything specific that like what are some of the biggest challenges you think most businesses face in overcoming technical roadblocks and making agentic AI more accessible for go-to-market teams or just teams in general?
Yeah, sure. So I would say anything in the go-to-market, I would say what used to work will stop working. Whether it's a marketing campaigns, whether it's outbound emails. The reason is, so if you see a playbook that is working and then there is a vendor basically, hey, I'm giving 10 signals. This is a copy generation technique. And there's more and more vendors will start implementing that, and that which is consumerize that playbook. Now everybody start copying it. So as a buyer, as an economic buyer, when I start seeing it, it's a new normal. So I get numb to that campaign. So I would say in general, the roadblocks is any playbook that you start implementing it gets obsolete. I mean, especially at this pace, it's getting obsolete more than ever. And in terms of the technical side, what I've seen is that you see the era of the co-pilots where you ask the question, you get the outbound, simple, kind of more of a chatbots style. Now the agentic came where, okay, cool, I can actually perform a task end to end. And then now the next level is multi-agents now. Like, cool, one agent does X amount of work, another agent does Y amount of work, and everybody collab each other. So there's a huge handoffs. The orchestration is basically happening right now. I would say that's where the model sometimes it just screwed up. Like when it is calling the tools, is it really calling with the right parameters or whatever it is? So my suggestion in general is do not look at these AI agents as if like it's done for me end to end, where you still need to augment what is the system prompts that they're, whatever the agents actually tasked with the system rules, it actually performed those. You need to kind of look into like, is it giving me enough flexibility to tweak the rules, what it's supposed to do? And can I apply my own creativity? Can I apply my own success secret sauce into this agentic to do something differently?
I love that. Let's talk a little bit about myth and misconception. I'm going to open it up to everybody. What is the common misconception or myth you guys are seeing when you're talking to people about agentic AI? Gary, I'll let you kind of take the mic first, and then Anirudh, you'll
Sure.
go after, and Venki after.
I think the myth is that it's very difficult and very expensive. And again, we were talking about large enterprises. I think that with AI and the vast technology and a lot of the great tools that the team here has built across the various businesses, we're all trying to make it easier and less expensive to build, test, and learn and create POCs and then automate certain processes. So I think that's really the biggest thing is, and that's why, we talked about it a moment ago, just trying to get people almost out of their own way of putting all these potential roadblocks and just realizing that you can build a POC really quickly, you can test it, and it's very reasonable, if not inexpensive, to go do that in large businesses. So it gives you just great power to truly innovate from that standpoint. And then the other myth, and I'm sure people will talk about this, so I'll just kind of pass it on, is just the safety and the security. I mean, that's the foundation of everything we've ever done since the very beginning, is putting the right parameters and guardrails, because nobody wants their models or their agents or their automations to hallucinate. And there's simple ways, checks and balances and security that you can put in place. I think the people that are so concerned about that maybe don't understand maybe some of the details and safeguards that can be put in place.
Thank you, Gary. Anirudh?
Yeah. I mean, fair point. I think there's definitely an expensive angle to it and the safe and responsible AI angle to it. I was gonna say a lot of the assumption today is that it's truly autonomous, and I don't think the technology is at a level 5 yet. Right? Like if you had to see the driverless cars, everyone's like assuming you just get in the car and you see like a Black Mirror like episode where it's driving on its own. I don't think autonomous agents are truly there. I think people sometimes come into the conversation assuming, hey, I want to automate my entire marketing stack end to end. There is the beauty is, okay, let's say if you had like solid guidelines set up by like an AI ML model or like a chat agent or a chat bot earlier, which is doing, let's say, 30% of the heavy lifting. Like I think with the agents now, it could be 75, 80%. So maybe just setting that expectations may be like a myth, if you want to call it today.
Perfect. And Venki?
So I would say the myth is AI replacing the jobs. There's no need of human. I would say it's a huge myth. And I do see why people think that way. It's because the vendors, the huge marketing out there, like the hype. Yeah, AI digital employee, AI STR, you don't need an STR. So there is the marketing effort, what the vendors are actually using is also causing a lot of confusion from the buyer standpoint. Do I need to have humans or do I need to replace them with an AI? But the actual truth is agents can do a task like just like an end to end, but it is not really driving the business outcome end to end. So I would say that would be a huge myth. And the other thing I would say is the agents when you start using it, let's say for example like single agent, whether it's a tool, the thing that okay, the single agent can actually take care of the whole effort, but in reality you need to kind of break it down and then multiple agents, everybody does a kind of an aspect over there, and people think that me as a user, I don't have to do anything. Here is my goal, you go do it, is not really the truth, right? You still need that end user, where for certain tools need to kind of tune it out, tweak it out, how the AI should work. And I guess that's why, I mean, AI replacing the humans, and I don't need to do anything, and this vendor will actually, this tool actually does it. That's also the biggest two myths.
Amazing. I'm gonna challenge the group now on a specific example. So I want, if you can, you don't have to talk about the client, you don't have to talk about the project. That's I realize we sign confidentiality agreements in some of these cases, but I would love to hear an interesting agentic AI agent build that you guys did that surprised even you. You were like, oh wow, how did this is such a cool way of doing this, that the results were either good or bad. It doesn't have to, we don't have to get into specificities of that, but it was more of like, I can't believe I could actually do this. Because sometimes I feel like some of the things that we are doing here at the agency surprise us even more. We're like, wow, I didn't realize that I'm able to do this now, right? Like as we keep on, obviously all of us pushing the envelopes of that. Who would like to go first on this question?
I can go first with maybe a more simplistic example, but we built, so Smith is a horizontal operating system, so it's not one individual vertical solution. But one of our core kind of ICPs is the development, the developers out there, to kind of give them a no code or low code platform to really build and scale what they're doing. And so we created an agent called Sentinel, and Sentinel is got kind of two different aspects. One is the efficiency of project management, of, putting sprint planning in place, creating tickets, workflows, so that all of the organization for projects can happen seamlessly. And then the second part of the Sentinel agent was designed for coding and efficiency through their process, to monitor them along the way and create uh, processes as they're developing, and then give them insights to coding so they can do it kind of quicker and faster. And, a lot of hardcore developers are sometimes a little apprehensive to start using some of these AI agents and tools, because there's the natural like intuition from yourself that I don't want to be replaced in that sense. But what we saw is that people that started to test and learn and actually try it out, there was a little bit of friction at the beginning, but then they saw how much more productive they could be and how vaster their output could be. And it's been adopted really, really well. So typically we have some onboarding that's got some of that friction points. And then when they test and they've gotten a few weeks under their belt, it's like the floodgates are open. It's creating 30 to 60% efficiencies in what they're doing and increased output. So yeah, it's great to have tools that people embrace that kind of give them, the ability to scale quicker and faster, from that standpoint. But love to hear from the rest of the team too, some of the things that they've experimented with.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I can just go next. So similar, I think Gary's platform, I think we are agnostic. We have a lot of like pre-built agents for sales, marketing, HR, customer support. I'll take the HR example as well. We did that for a pretty big company in India. They have like 1,600 employees, and similar, they have an ATS that connected to multiple places where they get resumes. So the LLM, let's say, had like a 67% accuracy on like filtering the resumes, right? You set a criteria saying these are the 3 criteria on which I want to filter the resumes. But then when we added, let's say, like a AI ML model, let's say in parallel, in terms of like, hey, here are the guardrails, here is how deterministic rules that we need to set up for if this doesn't work, follow these rules. I think the accuracy went up to like 95%. So that was, I think, pretty cool. And I think we struggled initially on like, how do we improve the accuracy? So I think that combo was almost like, hey, we kind of start putting that out, saying, hey, this AI ML hybrid workflow that we have increases accuracy tremendously on the on the output, because I think a lot of people end up caring about that, right? Especially since LLMs hallucinate. So we have that. We have quite a few examples of the marketing side, but marketing side is a little more gooey, right? It's less tangible that way. But yeah, I think that's one example for us.
Thank you, Anirudh. Venki?
Yeah, so what I seen that something most fascinating is having the ability to have a level-headed conversation. Let's say I can give you a simple example. We have dozens of cold callers who actually does the call on behalf of our clients. And when they are on the phone, they are given with list of people who you are reaching out, why you are reaching out, and these are the talking points. And this is how you can position your brand for their customers. So I have seen like our customer appreciating these SDRs. Oh, I didn't even think about I can position my product or maybe my service to my clients this way. So imagine like an SDR, like a fresh grad from the college, like they are representing a huge brand in the wild. How can they have a level-headed conversation to the executive buyers, like the decision makers? It's impossible. Now, back pre-agentic era, most of these cold callers said the static pitch. This is objection, this is answer, this is objection, this is answer, right? And any questions that you go deeper and you can say, yeah, cool. Why don't you get a meeting? Our account executive come and speak to you. I would say this is something fascinated that how you can bring a no experienced person to have a level-headed conversation with an executive buyers using a deep insights, even our customer couldn't even think of.
I love that. So it's basically being able to enable someone who doesn't really have the experience or the context, but get them to a point where it's super personalized and they're not really repeating themselves and it's doing the research for them. It's really feeding them the information that they need in order to have the conversation and dialogue with the appropriate decision maker. Did I understand that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's no excuse for any human to do that PhD level work, right?
Right.
And back then you need to do a lot of research, and you cannot do that at a scale. Now they don't have any excuse. You see what I mean? So get
Yeah.
the actual talking points.
I love that. Anirudh, I want to kind of bring back some conversations over to you. What advice would you give to startups who are trying to adopt AI without like really derailing who they are as their core, business? This is no longer, hey, we're an AI company, right? Like, how do you still stay true to your core, but at the same time you're able to adopt AI and make it effective? What
Yeah,
advice?
great question. I mean, I would break that down into two parts. I think anyone who's starting something on their own, I mean, they have to be AI first or AI native. And I think for them, they should pick a niche. I think all the big players are going super horizontal. I think like even the space that we're in, I mean, it's extremely competitive. We have Agent Force, we have AutoGen, we have obviously Vertex Builder. So we're like, okay, how do we focus on banking and financial services? So we'll have pre-built agents for a specific uh, vertical, and then hey, here are like blueprints that you can automatically like just plug and play and then automate a workflow. So I think that's one. So if you're, I would say, starting something on your own, definitely pick a niche and almost try to be below the radar in some sense. But if you already have something going, then I think if you have distribution, you got to figure a way out to continue owning the distribution. And I think for that now, companies are switching vendors or players if they're not AI first, or if they don't have AI in their product, right? So enable that, even if it's a wrapper, and then maybe slowly you can be like, hey, I'm going to build that out on my own. But I mean, it's still coming. I mean, Hamlet is still coming down to like a great user experience, right? It's still coming down to all the AI is like the. I mean, I still want a great driving experience in the car. I don't care. I mean, sure, it's cool that it's battery run, but I think it comes down to still like uh, the experience there. So yeah, I mean, maybe those two things specifically.
Do you guys see, and this is for everyone again, SaaS was really big, system as a service. Is that evolving? Is it becoming more service as a service? Is it more service oriented? You might have a great product, but that's given where people are. The product is just an enabler. You still need to be able to allow people how to use the product and how to go above and beyond that. Are you guys seeing that with your customer bases? And I'll start with Gary, and then I'll kind of take it around the room again.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic. I was actually having this conversation with somebody this morning. We're at a tech conference, and at the end of the day, business is still about people doing business with other people. And so the technology just helps enable that, but you can't lose that human connection. And so while you're kind of sharing, is SaaS going away and is it more services? I think you need to complement the automation of software as a service, but with the personal touch and service. I mean, we were even just having a conversation about the automotive industry. I'm from Dallas, Texas. One of the big automotive groups is Sewell. And like customer service sounds like just a simple component, but they're known all over like the South as the best customer service because they relate to their customers so well. So I think even with the advances of technology and automation and scale, we just can't forget that you've got a human in the process and that you're still people are dealing with other people, and you've got to kind of have that value proposition and that level of service, even with the kind of automation and scale, from that standpoint.
Thanks, Gary. How about you, Venki?
I would go back all the way from SaaS 1.0. I would say, you remember 2099, the internet era? I call it as SaaS 1.0, where we have on-premise and everybody is going digital, multi-tenancy, single software as a service, basically, right? 1.0. And then 10 years later, you're seeing this huge, big data, analytics, insights, and that, not this AI. Remember a decade back AI? It's a more demo AI, I would say, right? That's, I would say, call it a SaaS 2.0, where trying to bring insights or whatever. Now we are in this 3.0 era where software is redefining itself as service as a software rather than software as a service. So, and there's a big expectations from clients, customers. They think that it is done for me. And if I say, hey, I have a service which AI chef, you start thinking about it. Oh, there is some solution which understand my taste, which basically cooks it, and it basically serves the dish, and I'm going to eat it, and a wonderful dish, right? So it's like done for me is kind of expectations as come in the entire ecosystem. It mainly for two reasons, and there's two major big things happen in the last 2 years. The mortgage rates going up, and people are trying to, the money is not floating around. You see what I mean? The company is trying to do more with less. And then the technology also evolved in the last 18 months, saying that, hey, I can do more, I can promise more. There's two things happen, and the customer expectations are blown up. And so we are in a big, huge shift right now. And you got to see like next 3-4 years, how much it can actually cope up and see what is real, what is kind of hype. That's what I would say.
I love that. How about you, Anirudh? You're muted, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I was going to say both Gary and Venki hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think they covered almost everything there. But I think from a services standpoint, I think what we are seeing is there is a lot of like customization involved. And I think finally people are like trying to say, okay, how can this behave for my use case? And as a result, and also this technology is so new, there's an education that's needed that people are not able to do the DIY side of things so quickly. And I think as a result, that's leading to like service as a software. I think at some point in time that will evolve. Teams are getting smaller, but I'm seeing almost all product companies having a services layer to them, either as through a partner network or through their own teams. So like that's just, I mean, we have a decently sized services team, especially for large companies. So I think just the nature of where we are in the journey, right? So
I love that. So I'm gonna take this a little bit to the future before I start opening the questions up to the room. We've now adopted it, right? And this is I'm playing a little fast forward for us. We've adopted